Hey everybody, it's Mrs. Langham. Today we're going to be talking about conjunctions. Now, if you'll remember back with me, conjunctions are something that we've already talked about. I wanted to show this picture to you today because it really breaks down the different types of conjunctions that there are. So let's look first at this idea of conjunctions. Conjunctions will always connect something. So you have two things that are connected. Andy and Bob went to the store. They did it together. Jethro, Ellie, and Tony broke out of my fence the other day. Those are my dogs, in case you didn't know. So and, or a conjunction in general, joins more than one object together. So if you look here at this diagram, it says coordinating conjunctions. Those are the most common ones. That's for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. If you want to remember that as fanboys, you totally can. Then there's subordinating conjunctions, which are going to be after, although, as, far as if, as long, as soon as though, because, before, even if, when, where, wherever, even though, every time, if, in order, that, since, so, that, than, through, unless, until, whenever, whereas, while. Whew, that was a mouthful to say. And then you have your correlative conjunctions. So remember, if something is going to be correlative, it's going to have two conjunctions in the same sentence. So you could say either I want brownies or chocolate cake. That means you have to have two conjunctions within the sentence to have it make sense. So today we're actually just going to be looking at coordinating conjunctions, but you just need to know that they're there. In 6th grade, we're going to go and we're going to do subordinating conjunctions and correlative conjunctions. But right now, in 5th grade, all you have to worry about is the coordinating. So I'm going to stop the screen share for a second, and I'm going to share my whiteboard. Here we go. All right, so let's get to it. So let's look at how to diagram and identify a conjunction. So let's say Peter and Steve made a mess. Okay, they were not behaving themselves today. They made a total mess. All right, so in this sentence, we happen to be using the conjunction and to join two subjects. So if you remember, the subject is the main noun of a sentence. So we have a subject here and a subject here. Do you remember what word we use to show that something is two? You're right, compound. So it's a compound subject, Peter and Steve. So we're going to label this word and as a conjunction. You can use it as a big C, or you can put conj if you really want to. Okay. What did Peter and Steve do? Peter and Steve made. That's a verb. It's an action verb. What did they make? Peter and Steve made a mess. So we can answer that question, what? What did Peter and Steve make? They made a mess. So this is a direct object. Because that's a direct object, we know that this verb is transitive. Peter and Steve made what? Peter and Steve made a mess. Now, this little word here we talked about earlier in our articles video, but because mess, it starts off with a, oh my gosh, what's the name of it? It's not a vowel. The opposite of a vowel. It starts off with an M. It'll come to me in just a second. Okay, we can actually use a here because it's not a vowel. All right, so let's diagram this. Peter and Steve made a mess. Now remember, some of you call this a pencil diagram, which is totally fine with me. And you go through right here. You're going to put your little lines here. Remember that conjunctions always belong on dotted lines. So you're going to have a sentence like this. So we have Peter, because subject always goes on this side of the line. Subjects always go on this side of the line, no matter what. Predicates always go on that side of the line, no matter what. So even if it's compound, it's still going to go on the same side. So we have Peter. Whoa, I erased my whole thing. I still erased the whole thing. How did I do that? Okay. Peter. Sorry, it's a different color. Oh, well. And Steve. What did Peter and Steve do? They made. What did Pete? Oh, oop, 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 oop. There we go. Are you liking all my wording things here? All my interjections? Okay. Peter and Steve made what? Peter and Steve made mess. What is modifying the word mess? A. Okay, so remember, no matter where a conjunction ends up in a sentence, you're always going to put it on a dotted line. Let's see what happens if you have to join two sentences together. let me get a new paper here. Let's say Bob cleaned the mess, but Steve, who's being very naughty today, is that how you spell Steve? Sure. But Steve ran away from the mess. Let's use a preposition. It must have been a really big mess that they were running away from. Okay. Now remember, the responsible thing to do is to clean up your messes. All right, so we actually have two separate clauses right here. The first clause is Bob cleaned the mess, right? We call this one independent because it doesn't need anything to be understood. Bob cleaned the mess. We can just leave it right there. But look at this second clause right here. But Steve ran away from the mess. When we say, but Steve ran away from the mess, we don't really know what happened prior to that. That's why we say don't start a sentence in but or in a conjunction in general unless you're going to follow it with something, because otherwise it just leaves it hanging. So we call that a dependent clause. So when we diagram these, we're going to diagram them in two separate clauses. So we're going to take and we're going to identify first thing where our conjunctions are. So we know that our conjunction right here is but. So we automatically know that because it's joining two clauses, we're not going to use the pencil diagram this time. Bob cleaned the mess. I'm going to try to write this real small to fit it all on the screen. We'll see. I may have to abbreviate a little bit. Okay, I'm going to use all black just so I don't have to go back and forth. Okay, remember we always separate the exact same way no matter what. We know that our conjunction, but, has to go right here. This is our conjunction. Okay, let's look at our first clause. Bob cleaned the mess. What's the subject? Bob. What did Bob do? He cleaned. That's an action verb. Bob cleaned what? Bob cleaned mess. So mess is our direct object. The is an article adjective that's describing mess. Oh, I moved something. What did I move? Oh, art. Okay. All right, let's look at our second subordinating conjunction or dependent clause here. So if we look here, Steve is your subject. What did Steve do? Steve ran. So ran is your verb. Now, can we answer the questions who or what? Steve ran who? Steve ran what? We can't answer those. So we automatically know that this verb is intransitive. All right, let's look at all these different other words. Do you see any prepositions in the rest of this clause? I do too. Let's look at from. Hold on, let me turn off my phone real quick. From is a preposition. Remember, every preposition has to have a pop or a prepositional phrase that goes with it. From the mess. What is the object of the preposition within this sentence? Mess is the object. Just like the was an article describing mess, the is an article here also describing the word mess. Okay? Away. Remember, adverbs say when, where, how, or how much. So Steve ran where? Steve ran away. So this is actually going to be an adverb. Okay, let's see if we can fit this on the diagram. Bob. What did Bob do? Bob cleaned. What did Bob clean? Mess. What kind of mess? Or were there many messes, one mess, two messes? No, he cleaned the mess. Okay, but right here we have something that's going to join. But Steve, what did Steve do? Steve ran. Where did Steve run? He ran away. Steve ran away from mess. And then if we had room, we would put the down here. Okay? All right, it's super easy. Please don't be afraid of conjunctions. It's a really easy thing. We use them in everyday life, but you have to remember to use them wisely, because if you string a whole bunch of conjunctions together, it gets really confusing. Like I went to the store, I went to the laundromat, then I went to the movies, and then I went to the moon, and then I met an alien, and then your story never ends. So remember that you have to use conjunctions wisely. All right, guys, I will talk to you later. Please pay attention to your sentence structure, and I will talk to you later. Bye.